Following a prolonged dispute and consequent litigations over the rightful ownership of a portion of land situated at number 1 Folorunsho Kuku Street, a suburb in Opebi, Lagos State, Engineer Abiodun Ariori has faulted claims made by an ex-vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Monday Ubani, who alleged that the former was a land grabber and violator of the law in connection to the disputed property. The issue came to the fore when Barrister Ubani issued a statement titled "How Not to Use the Agencies of Government in Lagos State to Grab Someone's Land" and dated December 31st, 2020. Ubani accused Engineer Abiodun of sponsoring hoodlums and land grabbers to invade the land for the purpose of depriving his clients of the right to its possession. Ubani further alleged that Ariori was making use of the Lagos State agencies to attempt to illegally take possession of the property without due cause to a standing court injunction. In his words, few months ago, some men led by one Engineer Abiodun Ariori and few others working in cahoots with other land grabbers invaded a piece of land situated and lying at number 1 Folorunsho Kuku Street off Agbaoku, Opebi, covered with a certificate of occupancy obtained since 1989 belonging to a client company owned by a known Nigerian. The invasion was with thugs and Mopo personnel who I understand are men he uses to guide himself and his business. I went to the land and confirmed the invasion. I inquired from the Mopo personnel under whose authority they invaded the land. They answered they were under the instruction of one Abiodun Ariori. Reacting to Ubani's claim while speaking to journalists on Sunday, 3rd of January 2021, Engineer Abiodun faulted all allegations by the lawyer. Engineer Abiodun, a Lagos socialite and real estate mogul, described the allegations by Ubani as baseless and defamatory, wondering why a lawyer of his caliber could resort to cheap propaganda in pursuit of public sympathy.
We have been in possession more than 20 years. And about 6 months ago, we were trying to erect some structures from our land. We found out that some mechanics have taken over the place. And we reported them to Zone 2. Why Zone 2? Because some of them arrested. That was when we met Mr. Lawyer Ubani for the first time. He was the one who came to the Zone 2 to come and release them. It was later I found out that I was the one who put those mechanic on our land that have Supreme Court judges. Since we have been trying to work for that land, we have been using police to frustrate all our efforts of that land. So our lawyer wrote a petition to the Attorney General to assist us on the issue, which I think the Attorney General did the work to the land grabber to find out the truth. We have been on it for a very long time until we got the approval. And based on that, the state government tried to find out the place and who are the people that occupy the land. They found out that there are some shanty building on the land. It's so many that ordinary person cannot handle. It might turn to something else. I think there's also a petition from the occupant, the people living in that area, that they want the state government to come and remove those people out of the land. So saying that the government also they don't know what to do?
Also speaking, Francis Nwonye, a legal practitioner and solicitor to engineer Abiodun, while substantiating the claim by the engineer, fervidly condemned what he described as a reprehensible and continued defamation of the character of his client, noting that the legal repossession of the land was carried out by his client's company, Prosperous Ariori Golden Ventures Limited, of which he is also the solicitor.
We have legal documents backing us on that portion. His company, not even himself as a person, okay, was engaged by the judgment creditor. And the judgment creditor is the Meadows. There's a family called the Meadows. They are the owners of that place. They are not natives. They bought that land. And they have approximately Gilbert O. Meadows. They bought approximately 13 acres. So you see from the documents that we have that for very many years, even from 1980, they have been defending their rights over that land, dealing with people who are trespassers within the ambit of the law. They never use force or violence or fraudulent means to take over anybody's land. And in the course of those proceedings, those persons who were taken to court as trespassers, the court gave judgment in favor of the widows. Those people went on appeal. The Court of Appeal dismissed the appeal and sustained the judgment in favor of the widows. They still took a step further to go to the apex court. Everybody knows that the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land by virtue of the Constitution. It is a court of record. The Court of Appeal is also a court of record. So everything that transpired at the court below was also part of what the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court inherited. And in those courts, not one, not two, not three, justices sat, and the conclusion was reached that ownership of that land belongs to the widows. So the issue of ownership of the land has been closed, long closed. And then the question of execution, because after judgment has been delivered by the court, the rule under the Sheriffs and Civil Process Act is that you should take steps at enforcing the judgment of the court. Because the judge who delivers judgment in favor of a party is not an interested person, and is not the one that will be responsible for the enforcement of the judgment. You go by proper applications, and when you approach the court, you will be given access. Insofar as the processes are showing that you are the judgment creditor, and that was what happened.
Barrister Francis alleges that the lawyer Ubani has intentionally continued to tarnish the image and reputation of engineer Abiodun Ariori, labeling him a land grabber who uses the machinery of government to unleash terror on the inhabitants. This development, he averred, did not go well with Ariori, as it has not only impacted negatively on his reputation and business, but has also strained the healthy working relationship he has with his numerous clients.
Is it right when the court of law, from the trial court to the appellate court, have pronounced that judgment in respect of this land is delivered to so person? Is it right for you now to be calling that same person a land grabber? I saw how the processes were carried out. The bailiff, the sheriffs went there, conspicuously displayed on the property that possession taken from O. The date is there, the self is there. So if there's anybody to attack, you should not attack him, because the first thing is that, number one, you know there is a rule on bureaucracy. You bring a petition to the Attorney General, indicting somebody for, you know, taking your land by force. You can't go and start fighting mechanics. Taking your land by force, you see the presence of people who will frustrate your use of the fruit of a judgment of a Supreme Court, of the High Court. You didn't go there to fight them or shout. You went and approached approached the office of the Attorney General. You wrote even to the police, and the Attorney General advised the chairman of the task force on land grabbers. You can approach that office and verify this information, whether there's a petition that was written to that office. Remedy. A man who took very many years to build his reputation, you wake up overnight, you did not verify your facts, and you go destroying his reputation, and people start calling him from here and there. I mean, it's something that becomes a food for thought and a food for action. At the appropriate time and quarters, we shall seek redress. And I believe that the law is no respecter of persons. I know that once there's a wrong, there's a remedy.
It is noteworthy, however, that the lawyer Francis has notified Monday Ubani of the decision of his client to sue the legal practitioner as well as seek a 50 million naira damages for defamation. Speaking on behalf of the Meadows family, Jimoh, a legal practitioner, corroborated the narratives by lawyer Francis to further affirm the ownership of the land by his clients.
In respect of the land at Opebi, sometime in 2014, by Mr. Jimoh, who is a representative of the family. And the basic brief is to see how we can do the execution, or the execution now, of what they have done on that land. The family has a judgment. The first judgment was gotten in 1988 at the High Court Ikeja. By 1995, at the appeal court, there was also a delivered judgment in favor of the Meadows. And by December 1995, at the Supreme Court, the Meadows family also got judgment. At the various levels of court, definitely, by the time you are pleading your matters, there was a composite survey that shows and defines the land of the Meadows, which was submitted in evidence at the level of the court. And the execution was carried out sometime in 1998 after the necessary official processes, the issuance of from O and warrant of possession by the courts. The execution was done particularly for the vacant land where you have the mechanics now, which is, I believe, the land in issue. The execution was done, and after execution, the believer and every other person left. But there were trespassers that now came on the land, and these are the trespassers Mr. Ubani is now representing. They are mechanics, and what he's claiming is that he has a C of O on that land. And generally in law, we know that C of O is not the end of title. Since a court of law, particularly the highest court of law in Nigeria, has made a pronouncement regards as to ownership of the land in Opebi, then I don't think that any other thing will suffice from our part. And particularly since execution has been carried out. And looking specifically at Mr. Ubani's claim, his claim is that his client purchased about, let's say, 1 acre of land, 3,000 something, which is about 1 acre of land at that place. And he said his client purchased that land in 1989. If his client purchased in 1989, by 1989 there was already a court issue on that land. And there is a principle of law called lease pendis, which means when the matter is in court, nobody takes action. And there's another principle of law called sub judice, which means the matter cannot be addressed in any other way except by the court. So based on these two principles of law, of lease pendis and sub judice, I don't know why Mr. Ubani will take claim that his client has any other interest. And being who he claims to be, I believe that he's a senior lawyer. These are basics of the law. One, Mr. Ubani, when he first approached the matter on that land, brought policemen from area F at Ikeja. And at that level, Mr. Ubani was claiming that one particular Mr. Abiodun whatsoever, who is a Yoruba man, was the owner of that land. And that the man, at that material time, was sick or bedridden. Therefore, the man gave him authority to represent him. But when we got to Zone 2, at a level where Mr. Ubani appeared, he claimed that it is one OSA whatsoever, and he made statements at these levels. But on a process I've seen, court process, which I've cited, which does not have my clients in as a party. Mr. Ubani is claiming that one Circles Nigeria Limited is who is representing. In law, we all know that it is not possible. There's a differential between a corporate personality, which is an artificial person, and a human being, which is a legal person. So I don't know how Mr. Ubani is transiting from one form of personality to another for the same client. I also discovered that all this while, Mr. Ubani had been hiding basic details. One, he claimed to have filed processes. I read his story online. He claimed to have filed processes to recover some of our documents and have been to the file of the court. But I haven't discovered who our client is. In the court process he filed, he refused to mention our client as a party, which means it's a deliberate action. Grapevine information also reveals that Mr. Ubani is working for some, I don't know what to use, the appropriate word to use for them, but I believe land grabbers in that respect, because they are sponsors. And most of the documents he's parading are concocted. They are fraudulent documents. And he knows that. At the level of the police, when we met at Zone 2, he refused to show a copy of his document, because one way or the other, they already had a backdoor arrangement with the police. The police were encouraging him not to make open the document he had, even though we were presenting our home, even though we presented the survey that showed the land in question, for which the court gave judgments at the various levels. So at this stage, very surprising that Mr. Ubani is still parading himself as representing one party or the other in the essence of that land. And also further, there is another information we gather that Mr. Ubani has been making overtures to see if in any way whatsoever we can part with a portion of what he's claiming, and then he will back down. But because this has not been agreed upon, unfortunately, most of you have not had the privilege of seeing documents Mr. Ubani is parading. But I have had the privilege, somebody was able to pass it on to me. I find that in this introduction of his client, too many hidden information. Any lawyer introduces his client, particularly if it's a corporate building, we tell you that company is registered. We tell you the corporate office of that of the company. In Mr. Ubani's process, there is no mention of something like that. Nothing at all. It just says his client is a known person in Nigeria, and that there is the owner of that how to introduce it. At this level, I believe that is shallow practice. So, by and large, that's just all I have to say for now, because until we are properly approached by Mr. Ubani, so far he has not approached us. The Meadows owns that land. The parties, the people he has issues with in court. I don't know them. I am not